So these are the V-moda M-200 ANC headphones. They're V-moda's first pair of ANC headphones, and unfortunately I find it very hard to justify their $500 price tag. Performance-wise, their active noise cancellation performs more akin to a pair of entry-level or mid-tier ANC headphones in 2021. Sound quality-wise, they sound very bright and narrow, and comfort-wise, they aren't the best.
So, like I just said, the V-moda M-200 ANCs retail for $500, which is definitely going to open them up to more scrutiny for me. But obviously, since these things retail for $500, they blow past popular options like the Sony 1000XM4s, which retail for $350, the Bose NC700s and Sennheiser Momentum 3s, which both retail for $400, but they can be found on sale these days, and they're just a little shy of meeting the AirPods Max at their $550 asking price. So, if you're someone that's looking for a pair of ANC headphones in general, you'll definitely want to look at something else. Now, first let's go over the included carrying case. It's decent. It's your classic V-moda hard clamshell case that has a very synthetic feeling soft touch outside. But this case is definitely going to do a good job of protecting your headphones, which is what's important here. This isn't like the AirPod Max Smart Rod that just protects half your headphones. But nonetheless, when compared to other cases, V-moda's case does feel a little cheaper, specifically because there aren't any dedicated compartments to store all of your cables and maybe even airplane adapter if you've got one. Now, when it comes to the headphones themselves, build quality wise, the V-modas feel fine and they're definitely durable, but they don't feel like a pair of $500 headphones. Actually, the M200 ANCs don't feel all that different from the $200 crossfade wireless. We've still got mostly plastic ear cups, albeit we do have aluminum shields on the front. We've got these metal arms with good actuation to them, and the headband feels very sturdy. But keep in mind, these headphones are still using leatherette on both their headband and ear cups. And I point this out because once we hit the $400 mark, that's when we start to see headphones use more exotic materials, like either the sheepskin leather on the Momentum 3s, which really does feel awesome. I mean, I'm genuinely saying this. The Bowers & Wilkins PX7s have carbon fiber arms, which is pretty exotic. And then there are the AirPod Max with their all aluminum ear cups, chrome and silicone covered headband, and unique looking canopy. Now, don't get me wrong, the V-modas feel durable and they can definitely take a much harder beating than both the Sonys and Bose. But premium is not a word that comes to mind. But I think my biggest build quality issue with these headphones are just their control buttons. These buttons are just straight up mush city, and it just makes you think these headphones are cheaply built, especially since this is how you interact with the headphones. Now, regarding comfort, I'm not the biggest fan of how the V-modas fit. When it comes to clamping force, the V-modas have a firm fit to them similar to the Surface headphones. They fit snug and they ain't going anywhere, and I can say that they are big head approved because I can wear them for hours on end without any problems. But you don't really forget that you're wearing these headphones because of their snug fit. But also, there's their weight. The V-modas weigh in at 330 grams, which is above average for a pair of ANC headphones. Now, I know their website says 320 grams, but my scale says 330, so we're going with 330. Because for comparison's sake, the Bose NC700s weigh in at 264 grams, and the Sony 1000XM4s weigh in at 254 grams. So with the V-modas, you're definitely going to notice them shifting their weight around when you're walking around with them on. And you're still going to notice them even if you're sitting still, either working at your desk or while watching a movie in bed. Whereas since both the Sonys and Bose both have less clamping force and weigh significantly less, you forget that you're wearing these two headphones, which is great. But finally, there are the earpads. Even though the earpads on the M200 ANCs are larger than the earpads found on the crossfades, they're still cramped when compared to the rest of the competition, like either the Sony 1000XM4s, Momentum 3s, Bose NC700s, or AirPod Max. I like to think that I have average size ears, but still the M200 ANCs feel cramped, they rest on my earlobes, and they push down on my cartilage. So if you've got larger ears or ears that stick out a lot, then the V-moda is definitely in for you.
But now let's talk about tech specs. The V-modas charge via a USB-C port as they should, and they have an advertised battery life of 20 hours with their active noise cancellation turned on. which is definitely going to get the job done, but personally I feel 20 hours is a little low for premium ANC headphones in 2021. And this is something that the Bose MC700s, AirPod Max, and Sennheisers could all improve on. Personally, I like to see headphones try to go for that 25-hour mark with their active noise cancellation turned on, and personally one of my favorite things about the Sony 1000 XM4s is that they can go for as long as 30 hours with their ANC turned on, and they can go for even longer with their ANC turned off. However, minor rant aside, just keep in mind that the USB-C port on the V-modas is strictly used for charging. You can't use the USB-C port on these headphones as a wired connection like you can with the Momentum 3s or the Bowers & Wilkins PX7s and a few other premium options. Now, when it comes to Bluetooth connectivity, the V-modas are using Bluetooth 5.0, but more importantly, they can be connected to two devices at the same time. So you can easily hot swap from one device to another, which is always great for power users. Now, from a performance standpoint, these headphones have a zero latency across the board when watching movies or videos on your phone, whether you're using an iPhone or an Android device. And when it comes to audio codecs, the V-modas have support for SBC, AAC, and aptX HD, which is a pretty standard stack for a pair of premium ANC headphones. Now, for comparison's sake, both the Bose NC700s and AirPod Max only have support for SBC and AAC. Now, if you're an iPhone user, this doesn't really matter because iPhones top out at AAC anyways. But again, for comparison's sake, the Sony 1000 XM4s have support for SBC, AAC, and Sony's own LDAC because Sony is moving away from aptX in favor of their own audio codec, LDAC. But again, for comparison's sake, the Momentum 3s have support for SBC, AAC, aptX, and aptX low latency. But if you want to, you can still always just use a wired connection with the V-modas because they actually have an audio jack and they even come included with an audio cable, unlike the AirPod Max, where first of all, they don't have an audio jack and you're gonna have to pay extra if you want to use them with a wired connection.
But now let's talk about actually listening to music with these headphones. Long story short, I do not like how these headphones sound whatsoever. While in their stock EQ, the V-modas sound very bright and narrow. Vocals are all up in your face, you can barely make out the instrumentals, and the bass is very flat. Now, the M-200 ANCs do have a companion app where you can either select from a few pre-made EQs or you can even make your own. Now, even after trying to tune these headphones and find a sound signature that I like, my problem with these headphones isn't their sound signature, it's just their overall performance. From a clarity standpoint, these headphones sound very fuzzy across the board. At higher volumes, the mids and highs get distorted, and the bass in general is very quick to get muddy. And if you're listening to something with a lot of bass, then the bass on these headphones can just full on start sputtering sometimes. Now, the sputtering on these headphones is nowhere near as bad as the sputtering found on the Surface headphones when you increase their lows too much. But with the V-modas, you will hear a residual sputter in the background. And in general, I feel that any kind of sputtering on any pair of headphones that costs more than $150 is just outright unacceptable. Now, I've tried using the V-modas with multiple Apple devices, Android devices. I've used them with their active noise cancellation turned off and turned on. I've used them wired, and I've even tried driving them with a DAC, and I even left them playing for 2 days straight, hoping that burn-in would do something. But overall, I'm not impressed by the performance of these drivers. Sound quality wise, I feel that you're going to be way better off with any of these other headphones. Like I've said in the past, I feel the Sonys are people pleasers. Whether you like a neutral EQ or a bass heavy EQ, the Sonys should have you covered. My only complaint is that they can sound a little narrow. But unlike the V-modas, distortion isn't a problem at higher volumes and the bass doesn't sputter out. The Bose NC700s sound a little more open than the Sonys, but their bass doesn't have as much physicality. So for that reason, I say Bose are better for people who like a more neutrals or vocals focused EQ. But finally, there are the AirPod Max and Sennheiser Momentum 3s. Now, performance-wise, these things are in a whole other league than the V-modas. They both sound much clearer, wider, distortion isn't a problem at higher volumes, and their bass both have a good amount of physicality to it, and it's very clean. But personally, I do prefer how the Momentum 3 sound over the AirPod Max, because the AirPod Max can sound a little too bright at times, and the instrument separation on the Momentum 3s is a little better. But overall, sound quality wise, the V-modas just can't compete here. Now, when it comes to the active noise cancellation, again, this is an area where the V-modas fall short. From a performance standpoint, the ANC on these headphones doesn't really change how your music sounds, and there also isn't a lot of cabin pressure. And this microphone array does a decent job of blocking out wind noise when walking outdoors, which is good, but overall, this active noise cancellation doesn't block out all that much noise. But so that you can see for yourself, we're going to jump into an ANC test. So, like you may have just seen, the V-modas don't block out nearly as much noise as the Bose NC700, Sony 1000 XM4s, or AirPod Max. Now, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of the ANC on the AirPod Max, because even though it does block out the most amount of noise here, because it brutally goes after those constant low frequency sounds, it does so through brute force, so you can really feel a lot of cabin pressure with the AirPod Max. Whereas both the Bose and Sonys go about blocking out an impressive amount of noise, but with significantly less cabin pressure, which contributes to overall better comfort. So if ANC is a big deal to you, then I highly recommend that you either look into the Sonys or Bose. But overall, the ANC on the M-200 ANCs performs more like a pair of entry-level or mid-tier pair of ANC headphones. But again, so that you can see for yourself, we're going to jump into another ANC test. So in this second test, you can see that the V-modas does manage to block out a little more noise than the Sony Witcher 710Ns, which are a pair of entry-level ANC headphones that retail for $200, but can routinely be found on sale for $150 and sometimes even for $100. And you can also clearly hear that the $250 Surface headphones too manage to block out more noise than the V-modas. So again, regarding active noise cancellation, I'm not too impressed by the V-modas, especially given their $500 price tag. But one feature that's really missing on the V-modas is an ambient mode, which is a very standard feature on a pair of premium ANC headphones, and now even entry-level ANC headphones are starting to get an ambient mode as well, which is just very useful for when you're walking around the city. Now, V-moda's app does allow you to adjust the level of your active noise cancellation, but I found that moving the slider really doesn't do all that much, and it's definitely no substitution for a proper ambient mode, especially in 2021. But while we're at it, let me just turn off the ANC on these headphones and turn it back on so that you can get another sense for the overall performance of this ANC.
However, one thing these headphones do have is this voice-in feature, where if you cover the left ear cup, they're going to lower the volume of your music and pump in all of the ambient sound around you so that you can talk to someone without having to remove your headphones. And this is identical to Sony's Quick Attention.
All I know is I was made for this, yeah, slave for this. Lay it down and I'ma get it right.
However, I don't think these headphones have a legit touchpad, because if I were to cover this ear cup like I would with the Sony's, voice in doesn't get activated. It actually took me a few tries to figure this out, but you have to actually cover the faceplate and then wrap your palm around the edge of the ear cup, almost like you're completing a circuit between the faceplate and the edge of the ear cup, and only then will voice in get activated. I don't know, this is the weirdest thing ever. I've never seen this on another pair of headphones. Now, before we jump into the microphone test, I do have to point out that the V-modas don't have wear sensors. Now, personally, I don't care for wear sensors and I usually just turn them off, but I gotta point it out because a lot of other headphones, like either the Sony 1000 XM4s, Surface headphones, the Momentum 3s, AirPod Max, and a few others have them. So again, the fact that the V-modas are retailing for $500 is going to open them up to more scrutiny. But finally, here's the microphone test, and it's not good. For starters, I sound very far away, but also if I were to just stay quiet, you're gonna hear like this weird background noise. So long story short, I just wouldn't take phone calls with these headphones, period. Now, for comparison's sake, here's the microphone found on the Sony 1000 XM4s. Now, I feel that I still sound a little muffled, but I think this microphone sounds way better than the microphone found on the V-modas. But then there are the microphones on both the Bose NC700s and AirPod Max, which sound much better. Now, my voice on the Bose NC700s sounds very natural, and this microphone also does a really good job of blocking out ambient noise in a noisier environment. But with the AirPod Max, my voice does sound a little bit more amplified, which some people might like. Now, overall, I think the microphone on both the Bose NC700s and AirPod Max sound good, but for very different reasons. Now, if you want to learn more, you can always just watch my Bose versus AirPod Max video. But nonetheless, this is another area where the V-modas really do fall short.
So with all that being said, personally for me, the V-moda M-200 ANCs are a hard pass, especially at their $500 price tag. Sound quality wise, they sound narrow, clarity isn't the best, distortion can be a problem at higher volumes, and there can be bass sputtering on occasion. Like you saw, the active noise cancellation on the V-modas is nowhere near as effective as the ANC found on the Sony 1000 XM4s, Bose NC700s, or AirPod Max, and the ANC on the V-modas performs more akin to a pair of entry-level or mid-tier ANC headphones. But then there's their build quality. Don't get me wrong, the M200 ANCs are built very well. They're sturdy and they're durable, but the word premium does not come to mind. But finally, there's their fit. Yeah, they look cool, but their above average weight of 330 grams, snug fit, and cramped ear cups don't make them very comfortable. If you made it this far, I guess you enjoyed the video, so hit that like button and get subscribed. It helps out more than you realize. If you want to pick any of the products up mentioned in this video, those will be linked in the description down below, and you can also support the channel by checking out the merch store. But other than that, I'll catch you next time.